This is the Tom Anderson Show, broadcasting live from the KVNT studios, 7 to 9 a.m., Monday through Friday.
From Anwar to the Keystone Pipeline, the carnage doesn't stop under the Joe Biden presidential administration as he tries to not just crimp or suppress, but really decimates the responsible natural resource development industry from Alaska to the lower 48. And Daniel Turner joins us. Always a pleasure to have him. He's founder and executive director of Power of the Future, a national organization he can describe, and he can tell you how to connect with them, maybe donate to them and support them. But Daniel, the latest Biden administration, there are early efforts now we're hearing, and I'm not familiar with this pipeline, but to shut down the Line 5, number 5 pipeline in Michigan. Welcome to the program. What is that, and why is it a big deal?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's great to be with you. Line 5 is a roughly 650-mile pipeline that runs from Michigan through Canada. The reason why the president feels like he is allowed to get involved, and legally, I guess, is allowed to be involved, is because it crosses an international border. And that is why this is before the president. But a couple of things that people need to get right out of the bat, right? They just have to understand what's happening. This pipeline has been in operation since the 50s. What they're trying to do is they're trying to upgrade it. And if you look at its record since the pipeline's been built, their record is spotless. I look at propaganda from the environmental left all the time, and they will point to, in 2015, there was a huge oil spill in Michigan. Well, it wasn't Line 5. In 2012, this happened. Well, it wasn't Line 5. So it's kind of silly that we're attacking this pipeline for something that has never gone wrong, and actually they're trying to upgrade it so it continues to never go wrong. Second thing people need to understand, we have over 2.5 million miles of pipeline in America. For perspective, that can go to the moon and back more than 10 times. So the idea that this 600-mile pipeline is going to be, the end of the world, is going to be the catalyst for climate change, is just the typical lies of the environmental left. This is a minuscule pipeline. It's a flawless pipeline up till now. And it is important for our overall energy structure. The fact that Biden has gone after pipelines, the fact that he's attacked the energy industry, has given us where we are right now. Pretty high prices, continuing to climb all the time, a supply crunch, food prices have gone up, utility prices have gone up. So this is all a result of when you attack small pipelines and when you attack the industry overall.
Absolutely. His name is Daniel Turner, and Power of the Future. Why don't you explain? Of course, we have a show weekly here with your main dude and big fan of his and a friend of mine, Rick Whitbeck here, running the state's Power of the Future system and organization. But at a national level, what do you guys do, whether it's centric to Alaska or others, and how can people connect?
Yeah, well, powerthefuture.com is our website, and we love to hear from energy workers. What we try to do is we try to take issues like this and bring them to the national attention. Energy policy isn't always sexy, right? It's not always the forefront of the media. There are other issues that are way more get people's emotions, and race issues and abortion issues, and all of those have their importance and are part of our national conversation. But energy policy isn't always like that. However, the people who make energy policy, for the most part, are dumb as rocks. And they come from states like my home state of New York, people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, that don't understand the energy industry. They are not like your average Alaskan who knows about the Trans-Alaska Pipeline, who know energy workers, who know or have cousins or brothers or sisters who do 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off on the North Slope, or who work down in Kenai. They don't know the energy space. But these morons make policy about the energy. For example, some of these people are right now telling the president to shut down Line 5. And the role that Power of the Future tries to play is to elevate these conversations to the national level, to give some attention to it, to educate people so they make informed decisions, whether they're voters, whether they're members of Congress. A lot of energy policy is people are in two camps. They're either ignorant or they're deceitful. The ignorant can be taught, and that's what Power of the Future tries to do. the deceitful need to be exposed and they need to be held account. And that's what Power of the Future also tries to do, is point out who these people are and say, this has nothing to do with energy. This is some evil socialist agenda, and we need to call these people out.
I want to get into America's energy supply and kind of the theory that if Biden continues, he's going to further harm American families, especially here in Alaska. But before we get to that, on the political forefront, lots of things happening with reapportionment here in Alaska. I know you don't get in the middle of the smaller races, the city or municipal or borough. We don't have counties up here, as people know, or state legislative races. But full disclosure, I really want to see Mike Dunleavy return as our governor, and I really want to see U.S. Senator Lisa Murkowski return as our U.S. Senator and be the appropriations chairwoman. As yesterday, Chuck Todd, Meet the Press, Rick Scott, U.S. Senator, running the leadership fund there, and Mitch McConnell and team, they're going to support, as has U.S. Senator Dan Sullivan said, and I'm sure Don Young as well. They're supporting Lisa. So we're seeing, in my crossing fingers and helping where I can, a Dunleavy return and a Lisa Murkowski return. Will you weigh in on those? Will you say, agreed, Tom, and we're going to help, or do you stay clear of that?
Yeah, so as a 501c4, that is the status we have with the IRS that allows us to raise money and that allows us to operate. We are not allowed to get involved in an electioneering. What our role is to educate voters about why they should make the decision they should make. So we will never go on record and say, vote for this person or vote against that person. But what we will say is, hey, look, here are two candidates running for office. One says this when it comes to energy, and these would be the consequences. The other says that, and these would be the consequences. And now that you know all the facts, maybe you'll make a better decision. And so we stay clear of electioneering. In Alaska, it would be easier to do so because we have a great staffer in Rick Whitbeck up there, and we have an Alaskan. But in other states, I hate when people meddle in my local elections. I hate that George Soros has chosen our county prosecutor, and he has, by the way, where I live in rural Virginia, because George Soros paid for most of the county the district attorneys at the county level in the state of Virginia.
You bet. But you mean when someone out of state of stature meddles in an election? So, well, see, I'm baiting you here. You read my mind. The longtime supporter of Donald Trump, when he butts into Alaska and picks a candidate, not your words, mine, but I'm with you. Whether it's Soros or Trump, people got to remember, you got to vote for your person based on your ideology and feelings and pragmatically and all those things strategically. I got to bounce because we're almost out of time here, talking with Daniel Turner, founder and executive director of the Power of the Future. And guess what, my friends? You feel it. Highest prices at the pump right now in years. Cost to heat homes is expected to rise as much as 50% this winter. Guess what I'm reading from? Power of the Future media alert this morning. It's a big deal. Your guys' words, I agree with you. Do you see that there is light at the end of the tunnel? Will it be with 2022 and changes in Congress and Senate, or will it also be, local grassroots changing the mentality?
No, I don't see any. I am not optimistic about the immediate future, and the reason why is because what is happening to the energy industry is happening because of the administration. The policies put in place by Joe Biden, not by Joe Biden. Joe Biden doesn't know what's going on. They give him applesauce and put him in front of the TV. He has no idea what his administration is doing. But the people who work for the Biden administration, their policies are what has given us 2 million fewer barrels a day we're producing. Right? How can America produce 2 million fewer barrels a day without reducing its demand by 2 million barrels a day? Well, it doesn't. That's the laws of economics. And so what happens? The price goes through the roof. Jennifer Granholm was asked about this the other day in Scotland, and she laughed and said, oh, if only I had a magic wand. What do you do? It's called the Department of Energy. But the decisions that you have made, that Deb Haaland has made, Deb Haaland, who, by the way, you mentioned your state legislators, all of whom voted for her or supported her to be Secretary of the Interior. What has Deb Haaland done with Secretary of the Interior? She has closed off land from oil and gas development. Well, that's what happens when people make bad decisions. But sometimes, to be in this conversation, I said the people who make energy policy aren't always well aware of what they're doing. They're politicians. And at the end of the day, politicians are usually not good people. I apologize for anyone listening who is a politician. But But I like people who get their hands dirty rather than just people who run for office.
Well said, Daniel Turner. I don't always agree with you, but brother, I'm fist bumping you now for a passionate, thoughtful assessment of what's going on. We'll get you back again through Rick Whitbeck for sure. And of course, Rick has his show every week here. Daniel Turner, founder and executive director of Power of the Future. Always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you. Great to be on with you.
Absolutely. We're going to come right back. Good morning. Tom Anderson Show.